Hola, buenos dias, and welcome to our 4th annual Evolución conference, the conference for Latinx educators and friends by Latinx educators. My name is Edgar Palacios, and I am the founder of the Latinx Education Collaborative. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to increasing the representation of Latinx educators in K-12. Susana, so good to see you again this year.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Susana, tell our friends here who you are.
Yes, my name is Susana Lizarraras, and I am the Vice President of Educator Supports of the Latinx Education Collaborative. We have been virtual since last year because, you know, the world.
El mundo, as they would say.
Yes.
But so we are here, we're so excited. So I never knew that we would get to our 4th conference. And so I'm thrilled to be here today. We have some phenomenal folks ready to go and ready to kind of inspire us, ready to help us build community, ready for us to get motivated and go back to work on Monday and really change the lives of the students that we serve. First and foremost, I would like to thank School Smart Kansas City and U Schools Venture Fund for their support of today's conference. Without them, this would not be possible, so incredibly grateful for their support and sponsorship of our day-to-day. This year, the LEC has been really working on the ways and the many different ways that we can achieve our vision of creating a community where Latinx educators belong. And so we've been doing a lot of work internally as an organization, really focusing on what our values are, what we aspire to do, and the simple action steps that can take us to that place. Susana, would you like to share a little bit about our values?
Absolutely. Through that journey and those conversations, we've decided on 5 values that we think reflect our personal values, which we bring to the LEC every day, and also the values of our many community members. Our first value is authenticity. We want to bring our whole selves into the work that we do, and we encourage our members to do the same. Our second is integrity. You know, kind of hand in hand with authenticity. We're always willing to learn more and be honest and open about the journeys that we're on.
And I think with that value of integrity, we also recognize that we don't know everything, but we are merely offering suggestions and solutions for us to build a world with more Latinx educators, right? And we're also listening, and we're learning from our I wouldn't say mistakes because I don't think we've made a lot of mistakes this far, but really learning from our journey that we've been on for a while. So I heard you mention 2 values. What's our third value?
Yeah, our third is community. We are always informed by our community and the needs of our community. We, of course, bring our integrity, our authenticity, and our personal values to the work that we do, but we're always listening, and community is really important. I mean, isolation is a real thing, especially in the world of COVID. And so building, sustaining, and fostering a community is important to us.
Yeah. Today is about those 3 values and personal growth, which is our 4th value. Personal growth is really about, can we be better incrementally as a people? Can we be better as a community? And what are those action steps that we're taking? And how are we willing to be learners, right? I think that that's incredibly important, that we don't come with all the answers, even though we might have deep understandings of certain issues, but how are we consistently in the mindset of learning and allowing us to grow as a person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's what educators do as well, right? Education changes all the time. And we adjust. We're flexible people. Lastly, we hope that when we put all of those values together, we get impact. We hope that the community members we engage with, the students that we engage with, the schools, the districts, even people in other sectors, believe that the work that we're doing is impactful. Looking toward our community members to learn, looking toward our students to learn, is going to ensure that impact happens.
We hope that today's experience allows you to feel less isolated, more supported, and loved. We are so proud of the work that we're doing at the LEC to support Latinx educators within our community. We know how powerful our community can be. We know the value of having a Latinx educator in the classroom. We know how much it means to our students. And so I hope, knowing that today this experience allows you to feel loved, it allows you to feel more supported and less isolated. So I hope you enjoy this day. Susana, are we ready to go?
Susana, if you want to just let the audience know that we're all good to go. We've got Mara coming on
Good
screen in
morning,
just a
everyone.
second.
I clearly wasn't ready because, we're kind of running around and getting things ready. I hope you are having an amazing morning. I hope you enjoyed our DJ, Frankie Muskies. He did an amazing job at opening us this morning. Whew, I gotta take a breath. It's Evolution Day. And we have an amazing morning set up for you, maybe a little bit into the afternoon for some of you. We're excited to have you here. We were intentional about looking at feedback from last year and made some adjustments. So I hope you enjoy those adjustments this morning and into this afternoon. I wanted to before we start, let you know that we will have some Mara moments kind of throughout the day today. Mara Liz Salgado is a good friend of the LEC community, and we collaborated with her on an event earlier this year, and she just helps us get centered and make sure that we take our breaths when needed and take our breaks when needed. So 3 times today, you will get a Mara moment. And here in a second, you will see our first. It'll be a way for us to ground ourselves, this first one, and really get ready for what today has in store. We have some amazing speakers coming to you today. We have some amazing content coming to you today. And so if we're ready, let's kick off our first Mara moment.
Saludos, LEC family, Taino T, to all of you. I am really blessed and honored to share a few mindful moments with you today. I would like to remind us before we get grounded in the new love and learning that will be shared, to take a moment in reverence and recognition of our land and ancestors. In many diasporic communities, as we are immigrants as well, folks of color, we're people who honor the land and our lineage. And so I want to take an opportunity to do that before we begin, because history does not happen in a vacuum, but to people in places. And so much history has happened to and through our people and our places that we want to take a moment to recognize and respect them. And so wherever you may find yourself today in this remote setting, really ground yourself in the land, place your feet firmly on the ground, honor it. Think about the people groups, the many native nations. There's over 500 in North America alone. Think of the native people who for centuries and centuries have been the caretakers of the lands that nourish us, that transmute dense energies, and we are able to sow goodness and nourishment and beauty from what comes from the earth. And so using this plant to represent the land that we may find ourselves in, and this bottle of water to represent libations for our ancestors, I just want to invite you with me in spirit to honor, recognize, thank, revere our ancestors, our people, our homelands, our family lineages, for all they have done and will do for and through us in the communities that we serve. Thank you.
Whew. I told y'all, we just need that sometimes, including me. Like I said, we're kind of running around this morning, getting Evolución, making sure we have the best day for you. And we all had busy weeks. To be here on a Saturday morning, number one, we're very appreciative of you for taking this time to learn with us. And second, just kind of getting us into this relaxed present space. So thank you, Mara, so much for that moment. You'll see her 2 more times today. So it's time. to bring up Dr. Andrade before we do that and go to our keynote speaker. We have an amazing special guest, Justina Coronel, out of St. Louis. She is a reporter at KSHB out of St. Louis, Missouri, and she was so gracious to help us introduce Dr. Andrade this morning. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Justina Cornell. I am a multi-skilled journalist at Five on Your Side in St. Louis, Missouri, which means I shoot, write, edit, and report on general assignment stories in our community. Now, the Latinx Education Collaborative would like to thank the Hispanic leaders of Greater St. Louis and Leona, Missouri, and Kansas laborers District Council for co-sponsoring our keynote speaker, Dr. Juan Andrade Jr. Now, Dr. Juan Andrade Jr. is one of only 4 Latinos in history to be honored by both the U.S. and Mexican governments. Dr. Andrade received the Presidential Citizens Medal, the second highest civilian award in the U.S., for the performance of exemplary deeds of service for the nation, and the National Otley Award, the highest honor presented by the government of Mexico for distinguished service to the Mexican and Mexican American community in the United States. He has earned 5 degrees, including a BA from Howard Payne University, an MED from Antioch College, an EDS and EDD from Northern Illinois University, and a postdoctorate MA from Loyola University Chicago. He has received 5 honorary doctorates and been recognized as a distinguished alumnus by Howard Payne University, Northern Illinois University, and Loyola University Chicago. He has been recognized 5 times as one of the most influential Hispanics in America, inducted into the Society of Life Models by Omni Youth Services, awarded the Medallion for Leadership from the Hispanic Heritage Foundation, the Medallion for Excellence by the Congregational Hispanic Caucus Institute, and the Eagle Award from the Latino Leaders Network, all in Washington, D.C. He is the president of the United States Hispanic Leadership Institute. USHLI has registered 2.3 million voters, published 425 studies on Latino demographics, trained over 900,000 present and future leaders, awarded over $1.3 million in scholarships and internships, and sponsors the largest Latino leadership conference in the nation. USHLI is a member of the HACR and HLA Board of Directors. And with all of that, let's introduce Dr. Juan Andrade Jr.
Justina, thank you very much. Just want to thank Justina Coronel for that kind introduction. You know, these introductions are not easy. If you've done it before, you know what I'm talking about. There was a guy one time who was, when he was being introduced, the person introducing him said, well, never heard our speaker before, so if he's good, let's hear him. And if he's not, well, let's get it over with. Also want to thank Sal Valadez, my good friend from the Laborers International Union of North America and Missouri Voter Protection Coalition, for all the work that he and his union have done and are continuing to do in this part of the country, especially in the area of voter participation. After 55 years of working to expand the franchise to all persons, getting them registered not to vote, now we find ourselves having to defend the very right to vote itself. And registering more voters is even more difficult than it used to be. I want to thank Susana Elizarradas, Vice President of Education Support for the Latinx Educational Collaborative. Thank y'all for including me in this program today. And of course, I want to thank the sponsors. Thank all for supporting this conference today. And last but not least, want to thank the audience, those of y'all who are tuning in today to be part of this 4th annual conference of Evolución. Thank y'all for inviting me to be your speaker here today. As all of y'all can probably tell by now, I'm not originally from Chicago. 40 years ago, when 4 of us started USHLI, Midwest Voter Registration Education Project at the time, Latino leaders in Chicago told me, if you're going to make it in Chicago, you better learn how to talk. Well, it's been 40 years now, and as y'all can tell, the twang is still there. There's a lot to talk about these days, and it's been tough, quite a challenge, frankly, condensing my remarks to the limited time that I've been given. So let's get started and get into the huevos con chorizo of our Evolución. Y'all can get into the meat and potatoes and the terrific breakout sessions also on the schedule for today's program. I'd like to focus the remainder of my time to current Latino demographics, leadership, education, and culture. On current Latino demographics, as y'all know, there's a lot of new data out there right now, making a lot of us exceedingly proud and optimistic and hopeful, and a lot of others very nervous. And you can imagine why. Think about this. Latino population growth in the last decade just exceeded the total increase of whites, blacks, Asians, American Indians, and all other groups combined. Latinos now comprise 19% of the total population of the United States. Latino youth and children comprise 26% of all Americans under 18 years of age. Teachers, administrators, everyone in the field of education. Our future is on your plate and in your classrooms and will be for the remainder of your careers. The age of the largest Latino single age group is 11 years old, barely halfway through their public school education, and at the age when most children begin to consider whether they see a future for themselves, staying in school, or begin withdrawing mentally and eventually physically. The largest age group, on the other hand, for all non-Latinos is 58 years of age. So their next chapter is retirement. There's an entire lifetime of difference between Latino children and the rest of society. There's more. 22% of all women given birth are Latinas. That means more students going to need a lot more educators before this newborn generation will be because this newborn generation will be the largest population group and the primary voting age group in the next century, 2100. Their descendants will comprise the next American majority. Interestingly, and hopefully thought-provoking, the nation will be primarily biracial and or multi-ethnic. Already, at the moment, 12 states have at least 1 to 15 million Latinos. During the next 30 years, most states will have at least 1 million Latinos, as our population is expected to double and reach 132 million by 2050 or 60. Kansas is already estimated to be 400,000 and Missouri over 300,000. And we're the youngest ethnic group. The Latino median age is only 28. It's 42 for non-Hispanic whites. We're makers and not takers. Latinos have the third fastest growing economy in the world after China and India. In fact, our economy is growing at a rate faster than that of the United States. We're taxpayers too. $215 billion in state and federal taxes paid last year. $100 billion into Social Security. Talk about leadership. I'll revisit some of those amazing facts in the following segments of my remarks and maybe sprinkle in a few more. Latinos already lead the nation in some of the most critically important segments: population growth, business development. 80% of all new businesses since 2010 were created by Latinos. Latinas are the driving force, creating new businesses at a rate 6 times faster than all other ethnic or racial groups, male or female. Economic growth. The Latino GDP is now $2.7 trillion, the 8th largest in the world. And civic participation. Registration and voting are increasing at rates 5 to 6 times faster than the general population. Our weakest rating is in leadership. We are not adequately prepared to lead the most dynamic segment in American society. We have leaders, but not enough, nor good enough. Most of us were barely approaching the access ramp when the information highway kicked in and launched the era of artificial intelligence, where knowing how to figure out answers, we're overtaken by the skill of knowing where to find the pre-cooked answers, which practically forced common sense into oblivion. We need an entire generation of more and better leaders. That's why USHLI has invested the bulk of its resources into leadership development. And to date, we've had 1.2 million participants in our leadership programs, starting in middle schools through high schools, colleges, and communities. We ask ourselves, what constitutes leadership? Our community must be able to discern between what's advocacy and what's whining. Leaders have followers. If you think you're a leader, but you have no followers, you're just taking a walk. Then there are those who want to represent. Real leaders want to serve. That's servant leadership. And what's the key to leadership? Education. Education is the key. Nelson Mandela said it himself. He said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. The greatest investment we can make in our society today and in the years to come is the education of our children. Irrefutable as that may sound, it's not a priority in our society. Look at our Congress today. Universal preschool and childhood education is not a sure thing in the current reconciliation bill. We may get a tax credit for each child instead. My favorite 4-letter word is both, B-O-T-H. Parents, especially single parents, who are mostly women, need and deserve a tax credit for every child, which may also help alleviate hunger, eliminate poverty, and provide better housing possibilities. But tax credits don't teach. They don't educate preschool children. The lack of preschool education can put every child's education and future at risk. Preschool is the key to language access. Preschool educated children will hear 1 million more words by the time they start school than children who aren't. Government officials know how many prisons need to be built for each generation of newborns than many know how many would need to graduate high school and pursue some level of post-secondary education or training to sustain America's quality of life. Many children of color are like diamonds in the rough. We need educational systems that enable educators to adequately prepare each child to the fullest extent possible. Remember the words of Rosa Parks. She said, stand for something, or you will fall for anything. Today's mighty oak, she said, is yesterday's nut that held its ground. Think about that. Teach our children that the future belongs to those who hold on to their dreams. Cesar Chavez once said, to make a great dream come true, the first requirement is the great capacity to dream. The second, he said, is persistence. PreCollege has already been taken off the table in this reconciliation bill to be taken up by the next Congress, where it will be DOA, dead on arrival. Let's not forget that it costs more to send an inmate to the state pen than it does to send a student to Penn State. We need to get rid of representatives and senators from both political parties who would prefer to relegate our children to a permanent life as the underbelly of society due to the expense of educating them, rather than make the wealthiest of Americans pay their fair share of taxes. Anything over a dime would be more than these billionaires are paying today. Let the words of Dr. Martin Luther King be our standard. He said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Talk about culture. We don't happen to be who we are. We are all people of value with values. Gandhi spoke to all of us when he said, keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your values positive because your values become your destiny. People used to introduce me at events like this saying, almost apologetically, this is Juan Andrade, who happens to be Hispanic. You know, that's like saying it's not his fault. Don't hold it against him. He can't help it. Let me tell y'all, that's BS. And I don't mean a college degree. Y'all know what happens. What scribbling do y'all see on a dusty wrecked car? People write, blank happens. It's a four-letter word that starts with an S and rhymes with hit. Well, I may look like I've been in an accident, but I'm no accident. I am who I am by the grace of God. Just like all y'all are who you are by the grace of God. He could have made me any color, any race, any other ethnic group, but he decided to make me Latino. And I thank God every day for making me who I am. But what we learn in life is that who you are is not all there is to it. There are choices you have to make, but there's actually only two you can make: to make something of yourself or not. Those are your two choices. Either choice brings on countless decisions you'll have to make for many years to come. What you want to be in life is a critically important choice. But what is equally or more important is what you want to do. You can be something but do nothing. Or you can be something and do something. And when you are what you want to be and do something that will make you happy, which in reality is what we seek in our lives, happiness. Happiness. A professor friend of mine used to say, if you want to be happy for one day, ditch school for a day and go fishing or shopping. If you want to be happy for 1 week, go on vacation. If you want to be happy for 1 year, get married. But if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, get an education. Spanish was my first language. I learned English because my first grade teacher couldn't speak Spanish. In the second grade, I had help. A speech therapist was brought in to teach me how to say chicken instead of chicken, show instead of cho, and church instead of church. But I never forgot my Spanish. When I graduated college, I was recruited to be a teacher in a district where Hispanic students were passed more for being too old than for being ready to be in the next class. In the first half hour of the first day I taught, I realized that most Hispanic students didn't know English well enough to understand what I was saying. So they asked me to repeat things in Spanish so they could understand. That went very well the first and second day. But on the third day, I was arrested for speaking Spanish. I discovered that it was against the law. I went to court that same day and pleaded not guilty, though I was guilty of sin. I needed to be convicted in order to appeal. Well, that was the beginning of the end of my teaching career, which lasted one semester. The state legislature got wind of it and changed the laws to allow languages other than English to be used for the purpose of teaching students what they needed to learn. Now, teachers who can do what got me arrested are paid a bonus for being able to use more than one language in teaching. My friends said it was God's way of giving me a bigger classroom, like this one. At first, I had 30 students. I once addressed a live audience of 300,000. Today, there's an estimated 300 of y'all today. Later, I reached 300,000 on television 2 or 3 times a week for 6 years. The Lord works in mysterious ways. These are transformative times. We're living in transformative times and times in which dialogue and collaboration are the order of the day. We have a saying in Spanish, el idioma de Dios. Hablando se entienden las cosas. Paraphrase, it means communication is the key to understanding. Room has to be made at the table for our voices and our views. Anything short of that will doom our efforts, and the divisiveness and fear we endure today will prevail. Remember, collaboration is the key to true transformation. It's our time to shape and change America for the better, for the sake of all mankind. Thank y'all very much for letting me be with y'all today. Que viva la evolución.
So we thought now might be a good time to press pause for processing. Zaretta Hammond in Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain reminds us that when you're teaching a new skill or when new learning is happening, you want to divide up your lesson in 4 parts: ignite, chunk, chew, and review. The chewing part is about much needed processing time so that you can integrate and synthesize new information. And so let's chew on this for a minute. Think about everything you've learned today, everything you've heard, these new ideas, or perhaps not new, but complex ideas that have been swirling around the ethos today. How do they compare to what you already knew? How do they fit in? What larger systems do they belong to? And very importantly, how are you going to use this new information? So we're going to use a really simple teaching strategy, the 3-2-1 exit ticket. Take a few moments. If you don't have something written out, you can do this just mentally upon reflection. But if you have some notes or your laptop out, take a moment to write down 3 takeaways from today. What is something that you will not soon forget? What is something you very much would like to integrate as part of your knowing, not just new learning? 3 takeaways. What are you taking away with you? After you write those, process a little further by writing 2 new questions or questions that you still have after today's learning. So, 2 preguntas, 3 aprendizajes, and finally the 1. What is one way that you can, in practical ways, apply your learning from today? So 1 practical application. 3, 2, 1. Do it. Your brain will thank you.